Welcome to the Effortlessly Abundant Life podcast, where we will dive into the mindset, spirituality, and practical tools to have more of what you want with less effort. I'm your host, Natalia, a mindset shifter, certified life and success coach, and hypnotherapist who is obsessed with making your life feel good from the inside out. So let's dive in today's episode in 3, 2, 1. So guys, welcome to another episode of Effortlessly Abundant Life. Guys, this is one of the episodes I know you're going to save up already, because this conversation I know already is going to change your life, because this woman changed mine, and I've been following her for years. I've been taking her programs, and one of the reasons and why I'm doing what I'm doing is because of her work. Her name is Taylor. She is an amazing human design money mindset coach who helps thousands of people. If I'm wrong, please let me know, but I'm pretty sure you are right there.
Yes.
And she is such amazing light and in this whole kind of hustle and money and chasing and hitting certain numbers, and it's more of her way of how to get there and giving us the permission to be who we are, which we're going to talk about it. So I can go on, but I'll let you, my dear, to introduce yourself for those who don't know you yet. So feel free to
Thank
jump in.
you. Well, thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited to get to dive into this with you. It's one of my, honestly, effortlessly abundant. Like that's everything I'm trying to help people achieve with what I do. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Taylor Eaton. As Natalia said, I'm a human design and money mindset expert. And what that really means is that I use human design, which is a spiritual modality. I always like to kind of describe it as astrology on steroids, but it's its own system of different modalities. But I use it as an introspective tool to help people understand their strengths, understand how to leverage those things in business or in their career or just with money, and heal their relationship with money so they can make more of it. And so really a lot of what I do on a bigger picture is challenge the way we're taught to approach making money and view money, and challenge the conventional relationships we have with money. And just so we can all become more effortlessly abundant. Really, that's really the goal.
Right. And I think a lot of us, the goal is the money, because we all want
Hmm.
to, we think this is the goal. But the truth of the
Hmm.
matter is, it's not just the money, it's the way we're getting there and understanding that. And one of my biggest takeaways from all your programs is understanding that nothing is wrong with you. You're actually designed the way you're meant to be. And when you actually understand how you design and you work with yourself and not against yourself, everything kind of just aligns and everything works
Yeah.
out. And I think the hardest part is to trust that it is
Yeah.
enough. And
Yeah.
so what is your biggest tip, I think, for those who are in this journey? They know, they understand, but they don't know how to really kind of disconnect themselves from this hustle that almost like it's addicting, right? That feeling of
Hmm.
feeling productive, but they're
Yeah.
not really seeing the quantum leap results that they want. And they want to get and achieve it in a more kind of relaxed and more, in tune way.
Yeah. So, and this is there's so many different things you just said where I'm like, oh my God, there's a million things we can talk about because when
Right.
we think about money is so layered, and the way we think we have to go about money and the way we identify with money and what that means about us, there's so many layers to the way we interact with money and the way we're taught we should feel about money or approach money. And like you said, one of those things is we're taught if you want money, you have to work hard for it. You have to sacrifice, you have to struggle, you have to hustle, right? We have a lot of that hustle culture and hustle mentality that's so celebrated. And don't get me wrong, there's a time and a place, there's a season for a little bit of hustle, for more action, for more movement, and for really getting the ball rolling with certain things. Like if you're starting a business or if you're starting a new career, then yeah, that's the time when maybe you're kind of doing a little bit more than maybe feels comfortable because you're at the beginning stages, you're getting the ball rolling. And so there is a time and place for that, but we tend to get addicted to that. And we tend to get really addicted to that because we're taught that that's how you make the money. And so if you learn, okay, making money equals work, I have to work hard to make money, I have to struggle, I have to hustle to make money, then that doesn't stop when you're making a certain amount. If you, especially if you get into a career or set up a business where you are making money by hustling, there usually won't be a point where then you can just stop hustling, where you've reached enough money, because in order to keep the money coming in, you've set things up or you've built working habits where it requires hustle for you to make money. And so the biggest tip I always say with people, the first thing to do about that is if you want to be hustling less and actually feeling like the output that you're doing and the work you're doing is sustainable and the money, the way you're making money is sustainable, the first thing is to ask yourself, how can I look at my strengths, like the things that I'm good at, and how can I leverage those things in whatever I'm doing, whether it's in your job or in a business or wherever it is, any of your money making activities, how can you look at what comes easily to you, what your strengths are, and either monetize that directly or use that to more streamline what you're doing. And so this is all just to say that we kind of get caught up in following the steps that other people tell us to do and hustling along that road. When really, and this is where human design comes in with my teachings, is that you have to be willing to look at, okay, what do I bring to the table that's unique to me? What are my strengths? And this is something that human design does really beautifully. It tells us on so many different levels and in so many areas of the chart, oh, you're meant to more guide people, or you're really great at managing people, or you're a really great listener and you could be in roles where you're bringing that in more and that might actually help you make more money with less hustle on your part. There's so many hard and soft skills that our chart can shine a light on that can help us really introspect and go, oh, you know what? This thing that comes easily to me that I always kind of wrote off.
Mm.
Actually, this is a superpower, and this can actually help me make more money faster with less work because it comes easily to me. I don't have to struggle for it. And that kind of leads me to my second point in reply to your question, which is so many people either think they have to hustle to make the money, or they think, oh, I have to slow down and I'll just sit here and the money will just come to me. But those people,
Exactly.
like you said,
So
who
it's the
aren't
same,
seeing
it's a mirror of the same thing.
right.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's somewhere it's in the middle. It's that happy medium of knowing it's like, yes, you do have to take action a lot of time
Mhm.
to whether it's, if you want to look at it like co-creating with the universe or meeting the universe partly or whatever it is, or just this is how it works versus it's, money's an energy exchange of some sort. It's like you do have to take some sort of action, but that action doesn't have to feel hard to you. And often we think that the actions that are worthy of money are the ones that feel hard to us because that's what we've been taught. You struggle and you hustle and you
Mhm.
sacrifice to make money. And a lot of us have the story of making money's hard. So we make it harder than it needs to be. We do these things that don't feel good to us or that other people tell us because that's what they're good at. So we go, okay, that's what I have to get good at. Instead of looking at what am I already good at that is just easy for me. It almost doesn't even feel like work, or it's so low energy because it's so easy for me that I'm not so far out of my wheelhouse that I can just use these skills that I've ignored because I took them for granted because I didn't struggle for them. How do I identify those and find ways to monetize that or use that to bring in more money? So that's really the key, is that if you're someone who is slowed down because you don't want to hustle and then the money stopped coming in, or you didn't see more money coming in, you didn't see the results you want financially, it's probably because the actions you are still doing aren't playing to your strengths, right? And
Interesting.
so that's where you have to really start looking at, what are my strengths and how can I use those? Right. And whether you use human design to find those strengths or some other form of introspection, it doesn't matter. It's really about, I just like human design because it gives us clues as to where to look, and it gives us, kind of
Exactly.
ideas of, like things you wouldn't even consider about yourself to be a strength. That really illuminates those for us. So it's just another tool to look at, but ultimately you have to get clear on, like you said, whether it's in human design terms of how am I designed to make money, or what are
Mhm.
my biggest money making strengths that no one else has, or that people don't normally monetize, but I can monetize. What are those? How do I leverage them? That's when money gets to be effortless. And we're
Exactly.
not taught to do that at all. We're
We're
not taught.
not.
We're
If
taught.
anything, we're taught to kind of not listen to ourselves and
Mhm.
kind of put all our power into others people. I think that's the hardest part for people to really be in tune with themselves and really ask themselves, what are my strengths? Because a lot of people don't even know their strength anymore
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
they are maybe conditioned to be good at something. And because they've been doing for a long time, they think that's coming to them effortlessly, but it's really not really it. And this is the thing where I think so many people, they are, let's say they're good, like talking to people, interacting with people, but they're very introvert. They don't really like to
Mhm.
be out there. And so what would you say if in one way they're good at it, but they kind of resent
Mhm.
it. They don't really like that.
Yeah.
Do you think that's something they still need to look at, or that's not really what they're truly their strength?
So there's always two sides of something like this. When something that you could be good at, but it doesn't feel good to do, you have to look at why doesn't it feel good first. That's really
Mm.
where you have to start, is why doesn't this feel good? Is it because it's challenging limiting beliefs I have around money, or is it getting me out of my comfort zone and I feel a little uncomfortable because I'm being asked to grow or stretch? Because that's a form of self-sabotage. That's a form of getting in your way or not wanting to get out of your comfort zone and grow, which is necessary just as humans in life in general, but especially around stepping into making money a different way than you've made it before. You have to grow in some way. And often that's a little uncomfortable at times.
Yeah.
Or do you not want to do that thing because even though it's good at it and you're like, I can do it, I'm comfortable with it, I'm not scared of it, but I hate it. I can't
Mhm.
explain why. I just don't like it. It's not what I want to spend my time doing. I don't feel like that's where my energy is best focused. Like I just can't explain it. But when you just feel that on that deeper intrinsic level, I think that's when you get to trust that, because
Mhm.
you can be good at a lot of things, but it doesn't mean you have to do all those things you're good at. And so, because even if you could go and network or be around people and interact with people quite a bit, but you just do not enjoy it at all, even though you're great at it, you will probably make more money going and doing something else because you won't hate it. You won't feel burnt out doing it. You'll feel more energized and excited to do it. It's like we don't talk so often about with money making activities how important it is for you to be aware of what energy you're doing it with. Because
Oh,
oftentimes we just think
absolutely.
you have to get good at the skill. And that's part of it. Sometimes you can learn skills that can make you more money. But if you hate it and you hate doing it, you can be good at
Yeah.
it, but only be operating at like 10% of what you're capable of because you're holding yourself back because you're like, I hate it. I don't want to keep doing this. You might self sabotage and, kind of make excuses for why you can't go do certain things. And then, because it doesn't feel good, or you might consciously just hate it and not show up and not be real connected to people and just be like, yeah, yeah, whatever. And, kind of, and then no, then you're not even good at it anymore.
Yeah.
But when you love what you do, even if it's not something that people see as a traditional money making skill, or you're approaching money making in a very different non-traditional way, but you love it and it energizes you and it just lights you up, like people want that. People want to buy
Mhm.
from people who are exuding that. People feel confident giving people like that their money or their sale because they don't feel like, oh, you're kind of off, or they're like, oh,
Right.
you
They
are so
can't tell
passionate
why.
about this.
Mhm.
Right. But they're like, oh, but when you show up and you're doing whatever you love or doing something in a way you love doing it that feels good to you, then you just attract so many more people. Because when you think about it, if you had two sales people trying to sell you the same thing and one person's just like, I love this so much and this is why I do it and this is the versus someone who's like, here I am again, here's the product, blah blah blah. It's like, who are you gonna buy
Just
from,
signed a
right?
contract, right.
Right. But we don't really think about this. We just think, I just have to get really good at selling, or I have to get really good at networking, or I have to get really good at podcasting, or I have to. But if you
Mhm.
don't like it just on a base level, then you're never going to be as successful as you could be doing something else. And I think that's also the fear, is that a lot of people think, I'm good at this thing. It's almost that sunk cost fallacy where it's like, I'm good at this thing, or I spent time getting good at this thing. And I need to make the money doing it. And if I switch to something else, I might not make as much money. It's like, but what
Yeah.
if you make a lot more and in a more life-giving, fulfilling way? And people
Absolutely.
often don't think that, they don't often see that usually we're looking at money in a very negative light. And we're
Mhm.
usually looking at it like, I can only make money if I'm doing it this way, or what if I
Right.
switch from that and I make less? It's like, but what if you switch and you make more? Because there's always those
Mhm.
two options. And I think people are very unwilling to look at the possibility of what could go right if they actually, like you said, trusted themselves, which is a huge thing I think human design teaches us to do when we listen to our human design authority, which is all about how each of us differently have kind of different forms of intuition, different ways of tuning into what's right for us. And when you really play with that and get to trust that over time, of trusting your own inner authority in human design terms, or your intuition, or whatever you want to call it outside of human design,
Mhm.
when you play with that and you start to see that that's helping you always show up to the things that you want to do with the best energy and with the most energized way. And even if though it looks different from someone else, it helps you bring your strengths forward, and that helps you stand out, and that helps you either land those jobs or make those sales even when your competition isn't. It's just like, there's so much to be said for trusting yourself. And I don't think we ever really connect self trust with money. And that's where a lot of us
Yes.
go wrong.
Exactly, exactly. And I love, one of the things one of my biggest takeaways from one of your programs was really kind of implementing the smaller things, right? When we build trust, you can like, okay, don't quit your 9 to 5 and start a business if you
Hmm.
really like your nervous system is not able to hold it, right? Because as you said,
Hmm.
it's not the doing, it's what energy you do it. And if you're going to start a business and you're going to project neediness and, oh my God, please buy from me because I'm going to be broke and I'm be in the streets, that's a lot of pressure. It's almost not fair.
Hmm.
And this is where I love when, everybody, by the way, if you don't know, go ahead, find who you are. Are you MG? Are you a manifestor? Are you a reflector? Are you help me out? I'm missing
Yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah. You can find your energy type. That's the first thing you learn about your human design chart is your energy type. And
Right.
it's almost kind of like when you learn your sun sign in astrology. It's like the main thing you know about yourself before you find out, okay, here's what my rising sign is, here's what my moon sign is. It's like so in human
Right.
design, you find out what your energy type is first. And that alone tells you so much about how you're meant to operate.
So
But the
true.
five energy types are generators, manifesting generators, manifestors, projectors, and reflectors. And you will
Yes.
only ever be one of those energy types. Your human design is set at the moment you're born, based on where all the planets were in the sky at the moment you're born and 3 months before you were born. So your chart is set, it's your chart your whole life, but you'll be one of those five energy types. And when you find out that, that alone illuminates so much. So for example, I'm a projector, which in human design means one of my main roles here is to guide. Like I'm so good at guiding people. This is why before I even knew what human design was, this is why I started becoming a coach and doing work where I'm guiding people. And
Hmm.
uh, this is really what I meant to do. Also, when it comes to money, I'm meant to guide money in a way. I'm meant to kind of tell it where to go. I'm meant to guide it. I'm meant to help guide the flow of money in my life. Whereas other people who are generators or MGs, they are people who are meant to uplift others. That's their main role. So I'm a guide. MGs and generators are like they're here to lift other people up, especially if you're generators. They're here to lift other people up, and they're meant to just do what excites them. And when they do that, they have all this amazing energy that they're just
Hmm.
showing up with that excitement we talked about that other people love, and that rubs off on all the rest of us. And we're like, oh my god, I want what you're having. Like, how do I get this excited? Oh, I'll buy whatever you're selling, right? And then we
Exactly.
and it helps you show up, it helps us show up, and we're just like, yes, this is amazing, and everyone's being uplifted and lives are being improved at the same time because that one person is following just what excites them, even if it's not the traditional thing that
Hmm.
you would do in that situation or to make money. So each of the energy types has their own kind of general role to
Right.
play, and you can kind of start to connect those dots because not many people do this. This is why I started doing human design and money and human design and business because most people aren't looking at the energy types and going, okay, you're projector, you're meant to guide. What does that mean with money? What does that mean with work?
Exactly. How you
And that's what
connected.
I love doing.
And
Right.
I
And so
love
that's a
it.
lot of what I do is connect those dots for people with my various programs of here's what it means as an entrepreneur, here's what it means with money, here's what it means with selling, and then from there, once you've learned your energy type and you know kind of what that general role is, right? Are you here to guide? Are you here to initiate as manifestors? Are you here to reflect and amplify what's going on around you as a reflector?
Hmm.
Are you meant to kind of do things that set you, but also initiate as an MG, right? Like those
Yeah.
different things. Once you know that role, you can start just using your imagination. How can I use this in my job better? How can I shift what I'm doing in my business better to honor this and to make use of this? Because that's a superpower that comes easily to each of those energy types is
Hmm.
that role. You're naturally going to be good at that role, and you can use that in so many different contexts of life. And then from there, you learn about your authority. That's usually the second thing. Like we said,
Right.
that's the whole intuition. It's your inner guidance, and that's where that self trust really comes from.
Yes.
And
Such a big
that
one.
is the next thing to really learn. And I think that's what you were saying was when you start trusting with your authority, using your authority in design, like for me, I have a splenic authority, which means it's very intuitive, it's very in the moment, this either feels unhealthy or healthy for me, or this
Hmm.
feels just icky or really safe and good. It's like it's just
Yeah.
this inexplicable, quiet feeling. And other people, like I believe you are an MG, is that right?
Correct.
Am I
Hmm.
remembering? Yeah.
Third
So
one. Yeah.
yeah. So for you, I'm not sure if you have an emotional authority or just the sacral authority, but
Emotional.
you emotional, yeah. So you have the fun job of when you have these what we call emotional waves. So your emotions kind of peak and trough, and when you're at that neutral emotional space, those are the times when you tap into your sacral as an MG and
Hmm.
go, okay, what excites me right now? Because there'll be times when you'll overcommit when you're way too excited and say yes to everything and then
Exactly.
regret it the next day. And then there'll be days where you say no to everything and you pass up on amazing opportunities that would have been great. So for you,
Exactly.
it's kind of knowing when you're in that kind of emotionally neutral state, and then tapping into what excites you, and then making all the decisions in your business around your money from that space.
So
And
true.
learning to trust that, like you said, I always tell people start small, because I wouldn't, it's if you just had started trusting your intuition, you still have so much of that societal conditioning that you're not even
Right.
aware of popping up,
Mm-hmm.
that it's going to be so hard to actually tell what that guidance is. Or if you do get that guidance of like, okay, I know this is, I need to, like you said, I need to leave my job and start this business and
Right.
just jump into it. And that might be a line for you, but if you can't trust that guidance ongoingly, it's going to be so painful for you to try to get that business going
Exactly.
and not freak out, not panic. So I always
Mm-hmm.
say start with building up that trust with yourself, with your internal guidance, especially as it relates to money, slowly. Like start building it up bit by bit. So for me, it started out with listening to my intuition of, okay, do I feel like creating a Facebook post today or not? When I used to be growing my business on Facebook, that was where I first started growing. Do I feel like creating a post to sell something today or not? Because I knew what I was selling, I knew what I was selling, but do I feel like creating a post today or not? And if not, I knew I would the next day probably. So I just
Right.
started trusting that it's not like I'm not going to show up and sell at all,
It's not
but
because I'm
maybe today I just
lazy.
don't.
Yeah.
Right. It's just
Mm-hmm.
today, if I try to force something, it's probably not going to help at all. And then I'm going to get in my head because no one's engaging with it because it wasn't well written, because I wasn't in the right headspace.
Exactly.
And then, well, and it's just a spiral. So if I just don't today, I bet tomorrow I'll be more refreshed. And then usually I'd be more refreshed and I'd write something amazing that would sell tons of spots with one post. And then that's a boost for my confidence. And I'm like, look at how amazing I write. So it's just starting to
Exactly.
play with it on small levels. But then I was able to start playing with on bigger levels and bigger levels. And now it's very easy to be like, do I want to make this investment of tens of thousands of dollars? And I know immediately if I'm going to do it or not, because
That's
I have that
beautiful.
trust in my
Because it's the
clinic center.
same thing. Yeah. It's
Right.
the
But I
same
couldn't
place.
have done that and trusted that 6, 7 years ago. Like I wasn't at
Absolutely.
that point with trusting my authority yet. So trusting that inner guidance, trusting myself. So you just build up that self trust and that trust in your internal guidance and your authority over time. And you play with it with smaller things and then bigger and then bigger and bigger. And then it's not,
Yeah.
you also build up not just the trust in your internal guidance, but your trust around money and your trust with yourself that you can handle
Yes.
it and you can figure out whatever comes your way. And even if that investment you thought was so aligned doesn't go well, you trust you're going to figure it out, and you're just more
Exactly.
equipped to handle bigger and bigger moves around money. So
I think the
that's really the big thing.
disappointment is when we don't follow that
Hmm.
intuitive guidance. And that's where we kind of disappoint in ourselves. We will never be disappointed following our intuition because we knew
Right.
that it felt good. But when you're resisting your own self, that is where people feel that in between split energy that messes us up, right?
Hmm.
And I think continuation of what you said, for me, what really helped me is just literally, is it excites me to go right or left? Is it excite
Hmm.
me to take, I don't know, for lunch this restaurant or
Uh-huh.
take out from this restaurant? And really kind of like understand, because it's a feeling. It's a feeling in your
Hmm.
body that you will know, is it feels expensive or does it feel restricting and kind of yucky, as you kind of
Hmm.
mentioned before. And it really, it's a journey, it's a relationship with yourself.
Hmm.
And of course meditation helps so much to kind of clear all
Hmm.
the noise and really kind of tune in, and even kind of playing around, not make it such a, life and death,
Yeah.
really kind of play around. It's like, okay, yes or no question, stuff like that, and kind of see how it
Yeah.
feels in your body. And from there, it's going to change your life, because
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to do anything other than something that feels good to you. Will not, like for me, I cannot even force myself to do anything that doesn't feel good to me anymore.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
is the biggest success, I think, because I don't even care about the result. It's about, am the success for me right now is, am I following what's, like, am I in tune with what I want, and am I actually following that intuition?
Yeah.
And that's it. And that's really what it's all about, and trusting that is enough. And it's not about the figures, it's not about all the things we see that represent success, but then you
Hmm.
end up being miserable and you feel like you betrayed yourself.
Yeah.
And I think when you don't do that and you actually follow that, and human design is, I don't even understand how only recently we know about this. Like, it's a big, but it's been here for centuries, right? It's not like a new
Just for
thing.
just for decades. It's relatively
Okay.
new. It was
Okay.
born, several decades ago, but it's a newer thing. But all the systems it's built on, because like I said, it's an amalgamation of, so it's like a combination of astrology,
Right.
I Ching,
Numerology.
Kabbalah. We have the chakra system. So it's like all these different modalities from around the world that are thousands of years old or hundreds of years old,
Exactly.
right?
So,
So we have those. But yeah, the human design system itself, which is incredibly complex and intricate, that's a much newer
I
development. But yeah,
know.
so
I took
yeah,
your reader
my
course,
reader
and
training
I'm
program.
like,
Yeah.
it's a lot, guys, in the best way possible, because it's really, I mean, it's a rabbit hole that just doesn't end, and it's
Hmm.
beautiful. That's the truth of it, because the more we practice something, the more we feel we don't know anything about it, and that means actually you're
Yeah.
in the right place and you're actually doing it right. Because when you
Yeah.
feel you know it all, you're done.
Exactly. Exactly. And also what you said too, I just want to go back and say how amazing it is that you can see that you that the real prize has been you learning to trust yourself, and that
Yes.
you literally can't even do what doesn't feel good anymore, because that's how I feel too. It's like I had this conversation with a client the other day. I said, I literally cannot force myself to do something that does not feel aligned. Even if everyone else would look at it and say logically, this is the best move for your business, this is the best move financially, do this. And if it does not feel good to me, I cannot even make myself do it. I will be I'm gonna be physically sick if I have to do this, or I'm gonna cry if I
Exactly.
have to do this, right? Like it's because your relationship with yourself gets so strong. And when, like you said, that's what brings you the happiness. It's like in the moment, does this feel right? Does this feel exciting? Does this feel like what I want? Does this feel true for me? And when we think about it, the reason we want money is because we think we're going to feel a certain way when we have it, like our life is full, or that we're finally free from stress, or that we finally are happy in some way. And
Mhm.
the truth is, what I found from doing this work and with the more and more money I've made, I've realized that we are so sold on the belief that money or success is the key to happiness, right? Like be successful, have money, and then you can have the life you want, you'll have the freedom you want, you don't have to worry about it anymore.
Exactly. It's the
But the
lie,
truth is,
biggest lie.
it's the other way around. It's completely
Exactly.
flipped. Is that when you're happy, the money shows up as a byproduct. Because, like you said earlier on, then you show up in the right energy. You show up in the
Mhm.
energy that's so attractive to other people. You feel you're so in love with like a life that you're inspired constantly and can constantly see, oh, I could do this, I could do this, I could sell this, I could create this, I could go invest here. You open yourself up to so much potential because you don't, like you said, it's not the needy energy. You're not like, oh my God, I need the money. Oh my God, I need,
Mhm.
because you understand that the money is a byproduct of the happiness. And so really happiness and that joy, which comes from self-trust and valuing and trusting yourself, allows you to unlock that happiness in the moment. And when you have that, you have more energy, you have more inspiration, you have more motivation to show up and go do the things that are going to bring in all the money. And so we just have it so backwards
So
of,
true.
you can relax, you can retire, you can enjoy your life once you make some money, hustle for the first 10, 20 years of your adult life, and then you can be stable and you can get the house and have a mortgage and blah, blah. And we're just sold on this belief that
Lie.
money is the happiness to the life we want, or is the key to the life we want. But really, it's having the life you want right now. In terms, it doesn't mean you can't want more for yourself and you can't rise to more. But when you find that in this present moment, you can have that happiness and you can tune into what feels right for you right now and follow that and feel so good. Even if that's as small as, you know what, I feel like going for a walk right now because it's a beautiful day and I'm going to do that instead of sitting here and trying to force myself to do some work and make some money.
Exactly.
And you go for a walk, and guess what? Now all of a sudden on the walk, you meet someone who has an opportunity for you, or you find money on the street, or you just feel so recharged that then you're ready to work. It's like, we have it so backwards. And I think that's again the beautiful thing that human design teaches is it's like before you try to do anything, check in with yourself.
Yes.
Check in with what's right for you and check in with, how do I use my strengths? What feels best to me? What comes easily to me? How do I leverage this? How do I leverage that? What do I want to do? What feels right to me? And from there, the money gets to be so easy, but we just have so much conditioning that makes us believe it can't be. So the
It's
fact that you
amazing.
say, like that you literally cannot do anything that doesn't feel good to you, it's what a relief too to be like, I can't get it wrong. Anything I do, it won't be wrong because I already have
Exactly.
everything I want right now. I have the happiness, I have the internal guidance, and I trust myself. I literally can't do anything wrong. I can't mess it up. And that's
Right.
also such a powerful place to create wealth from.
I think
So,
alignment is the goal. When you align,
hmm
you mean alignment is such another buzzword, but it means connection, right? It means to be
hmm
connected to yourself, to everything, every part of you. You want to call it source, you want to call it God, but when you connect it to that, it's just that feeling that it's just it's there's nothing better than that. And kind of going back, it's interesting. One of the things, as a salesperson, I was, meeting a lot of people, and it's just back to back meetings and Zooms. And then you have networking events and happy hours
Yeah.
and dinners and all kind of like goes back and forth. And I just remember that I couldn't do it anymore. I just didn't want to see anybody.
Yeah.
And I remember like vividly, what do I want to do today? And I had a whole list of appointments. And I remember, you know what? I just want to chill and I take a nap. And
Yeah.
that's what I did. And it's amazing. And the phone kept ringing and things are like, it's just insane how, when you actually, again, listening to yourself and you following that, only good things are going to happen. Only good things. I
Yeah.
promise you. It's amazing. So for those who kind of, okay, they kind of know their type,
Mhm.
what are kind of we're going to go through, if you don't mind, each of the
Mhm.
energy types, but to kind of go
Mhm.
through, what are the best kind of tip to follow and kind of tune into their effortlessly abundant life by tuning to
Yeah.
being themselves, which is the best. Let's
Yeah.
start with the MGs.
Yeah. So we'll do, I'm doing, well, actually, let's start, if you don't mind, let's do manifestors and generators
Yes, yes,
because
you're
MGs
right.
are a hybrid of the two. So it'll kind of make a
Yes.
little bit more sense. So we'll start with manifestors. So manifestors, are probably about, I think about 8% of the population, 8, 10, somewhere around there. So relatively rare. And manifestors, your main role in general is to be an initiator. And so this means you're meant to be someone who has brilliant ideas or things that inspire you or things you're interested in, and you kind of play with them for a little bit and then you hand them off to other people, or you have ideas or big visions or concepts and you hand that off to other people, and then they go bring the vision you had to reality, or they go build the business, they go do the tasks that bring in the money, and so
Hmm.
a lot of people say manifestors are leaders, but I found a lot of people take that very literally and they think, oh, I have to lead whole movements or I have to lead a whole company. And that's not for everyone. Not everyone wants to do that. And it feels very intimidating. And it's really that you're more of an initiator. You're here to, you have as a manifestor, if you want to talk about it in these terms in the human design world, we say a direct line to source or to the universe, meaning you have this direct line of inspiration that is just, you're constantly getting inspired in, but you can feel a little bit like you have shiny object syndrome, where you're just being constantly pulled in new
Mm.
directions. But it's because you're meant to have so many different interests and ideas that are brilliant $1 million ideas, but you get to delegate these things or hand them off to other people or inspire people with them, or even be a consultant and come in and look at somebody's company and go, oh, I have an inspiration for how you can improve this and improve this and improve this. Here's your ideas. Okay, I'm gone now. You go implement it, right? Like that's kind
Cut
of
me a
in the
check
grand
later.
scheme of
Yeah.
things. Right. And it doesn't mean manifestors can only be consultants. There's so many things you can do with that and ways you can use that in other roles and positions. But when you think about money, the idea is it's not your job to be busy making money all the time. It is your job to be playfully following that inspiration and then handing that off to other people and letting other people run with it. So again, there's so many ways you can bring that into money, but
Hmm.
and into career and into business or anything like that. But really, the biggest thing for effortless abundance is giving yourself the freedom to play in different arenas, play with different topics, follow what excites you rather than being, I always say it for my entrepreneurs who are managers, I'm like, you do not need to niche into one topic or
Oh
like
my
really,
God,
really one specific
please.
niche, or you don't need
Thank
to have
you
tons of
for
calls on your
saying that.
calendars. Yeah. And that goes for MGs because you have some of this energy in you where it's like you want to jump from thing thing. And that's a superpower. But again, we're taught with money that it's not a superpower, that you have to be
Right.
so focused on one thing and you have to commit to one thing. And it's, we need people who are innovators. We need people who can see things differently and who can bring the rest of us our attention to something and
Yes.
then have us run with it, right? Like we need those people, and you can be wildly successful doing things like that, whether it's in a traditional corporate job or it's in your own business or as a freelancer. Like there's so many ways that this can work, but you have to make sure that you're giving yourself that ability to bring new ideas to people, even if it's you're an employee somewhere and you're bringing new ideas to your manager, to your boss for improving things, or you're, like, and you're like, oh,
Yes.
this is exciting. Oh, I'd love to do this. Can I do this for today? Can I be on this area or this team today and go over here? It's like there's so many ways it can work. So for manifestors, creating freedom, that's the big thing. Where can
Hmm.
you create freedom and give yourself permission to jump from thing to thing to thing, but leverage that in a profitable way. So
Love it.
that's the biggest thing is once you have freedom as a manifestor, oh my gosh, that's when money flows. When you have freedom to do what you want when you want. That's the biggest thing.
Beautiful.
And then generators, these generators make up much more of the population, about 35 to 40%, along
My
with
husband
manifesting
is a
generators.
generator.
Yeah, generators and MGs make up together like 70 to 75% of the population. So that's most of the world are either generators or MGs. So generators, they are, I don't want to say they're the opposite of manifestors, but they are very different in the sense that they have a defined sacral center. And what that means is that's a motor center in human design. And it just means that they have so much energy. And if they're doing what excites them on a gut level, they can go and go and go and not sleep and not eat and not do anything else. And they can just be immersed in what they love and work for hours on end and love it and not run out of energy. And it doesn't mean generators never should take breaks, but it means they can just go and go and go and go. Whereas a manifester, even if they're inspired, they're going to need some downtime. They're going to need some rest. They
Right.
don't have that different sacral. So a generator is, they love it. Not always, but for the most part, generators really love to sink into one thing and like really just work at it until it's complete, or work at it until it's time to hand it over to someone else or jump to something else. But a lot of people compare them to worker bees, but I think it's more that generators have so much passion with that defined sacral center. So when they're doing what they love and what excites them, what feels like a hell yes in their gut and in their body, that is when what they do is they generate all this amazing energy that they keep
Mm.
cycling through. It keeps generating itself
Ah,
to keep working,
interesting.
and they create so much that it's excess and it overflows and it's all this energy, and that excited working energy, everyone else around them gets excited. We tap into that, like, and that uplifts everyone else. And so for generators, the big thing is giving yourself freedom to do what excites you, like
Mhm.
making sure you're only doing what excites you and what lights you up on that gut level, which just feels like a full body hell yes.
Mhm.
When you do that, that it, like, you have to trust that that is what's going to lift other people up, because your main purpose as a generator is to lift other people up. You're here to make other people happy, but so many generators are people pleasers, and because we're taught to make other people happy and to be of value to people, and this translates to money, right? You have to put others' needs first. You have to do what other people want you
Yes.
to do, and your job is
Oh
not
my
your job
God.
is not to do that. Like, you have to be kind of selfish as a generator or an MG. You have to be willing to say, this is what excites me and I'm going to do it, and I know in doing that I will be the best version of me, and that's going to help people around me so much more than
The ripple
putting my
effect
needs
is
last and
amazing.
help them. Yeah, right.
And I wish
So
with people like this is, if you get anything from this episode, I want you to understand that the most important thing, and you're like you're going to be in service and giving so much value by actually being 100% who you are unapologetically, and
mhm.
being in that excitement, because we need so much more of that. We don't want somebody
Yeah.
to do something for us just because they want to please us. Doesn't also feel good in the receiving part as well when you think
Mhm.
about it.
Right.
You want somebody to do it because they want to do it.
Right.
And if everybody will actually do what they want to do, I think the world would be a better place. But yeah.
And most people say it can't be because no one would want to do this or that. And I'm like, that's not true. Like, not everyone is like you. I think that's the beautiful thing we learn from human design is everyone has
Exactly.
different strengths, everyone has different desires, everyone has different definitions of success or different things that they want to do. Like, I would never, ever, ever want to be an engineer or do anything with math. My husband, before I was making enough of my business to retire him from his job, he was a mechanical engineer. He loved it. He still to this day in his free time, he just watches YouTube videos about engineering and just continues, like, he
I
loves
love
it.
it.
And he's so good at math. He's so good with science. He's so good with, formulas and holding numbers and mental math. And I'm like, that is not my strong suit. I have no desire. I know I can be good at it if I find myself. I have no desire
Exactly.
to, right? It's like, no, no, thanks. I want to write. I want to create. I want to coach. I want to guide. It's like, I want to help people. It's like,
I
that's what
love
I
it.
want to do. I want to work with people. And it's just, that's what I love about human design is it shines a light on the fact that we're all so wildly different,
Isn't it
that
crazy?
we all
How
can do it. And I really do
brilliant
think,
it
yeah, if
is.
we were all living in alignment with what felt good to us, whether it's through human design lens or just in general, what actually feels good to you,
Mm-hmm.
we would have such a different society and such a different economy. But I think in a lot of ways it would be better and
Oh,
thriving, right? Who
absolutely.
knows? But
100%.
but before we go on to MGs, I realized we didn't tell people that if you don't know your human design and your energy type, you can just Google free human design chart, and there's tons of different sites where you just enter in your birth date, location, time, and it'll generate your chart for you, and it'll tell you in text which of the energy types you are. So just for
Yes.
those listening.
100%. And I put it in the show notes, by the way. So
Oh,
you have
perfect.
it.
Yes,
Perfect.
thank you. Okay, so MGs. So this is, your design, Natalia, and it's
Yes.
so based on what we said, you're a hybrid of manifesting energy and generator energy. So it's the two together. And this means that you have, again, you have that desire to jump from thing to thing to thing. I always tell, again, my manifestor and MG entrepreneurial clients, I'm like, please, for the love of God, do not niche down too far. Like, if you
For
want
the
to have
love of
some
God.
niche, right? But I'm like, if you want to have some niche, go for it. But if you are niched so far down that you have no creativity, no room to play, no room
It's
to
like
explore different
jail. It
interests,
feels like jail.
you're
And
gonna
that's
burn
how I
out. You're gonna
felt.
burn out.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
this is the
Hmm.
permission slip for you guys. Cause I like attracts like, so I'm sure a lot of MGs are listening to this where they feel trapped because they are known for what they do or they're good for what they do. And
Hmm.
they feel like it's like, oh my God, it feels like you're jumping out of a cliff to go to do something different. But I feel for me, for instance, the mindset was always the base of everything that I did. Doesn't matter if it was vocal coaching, singing, sales or coaching, whatever. It was always that. And I think one of the things you kind of talked about in your one of your courses was just like kind of find for MGs, like to find what is the kind of like what is the connector, what is the thing that connects
Hmm.
all the dots for you, and this is what's for me. So really look
Yeah.
for yourself, what is it for you, and it will make so much sense. You're going to feel like you can jump from thing to thing, but you still have that niche down what you're
Yeah,
known
that
for.
makes sense for your audience and is consistent for your audience, but it doesn't
Exactly.
have to
So you
look
don't look
like a
crazy.
crazy specific niche. Yeah, and also just because there is something to be said for consistency in business in terms of your messaging and in terms of who you're speaking to.
Right.
But like you said, it's always finding, I think, that common thread. It's like what it, like you said, like if it's always mindset for you, then it's like then you can still talk about mindset for singers, mindset for
Exactly.
making money, mindset around relationships. Like there's a million things you can do, but the common thread is mindset. For other people, it's empowerment. For other people, it's spirituality. For other people, it's
Mhm.
aesthetic stuff. It's all beauty, but here's beauty in terms of fitness, beauty in terms of fashion, beauty in terms of, like, there's so much, it's
Yes.
there's ways. You just have to be willing to zoom out and connect the dots between all of your interests and see what's the common thread that I can bring it all into. So you don't have to niche down. And that's, I think, something, again, whether you're an entrepreneur or just in career, where you're like, you have to stay in the same career lane and don't veer from it or else you won't get hired somewhere else. And it's like sometimes people want someone to come in who has expertise in food services and expertise in B2B sales. Like there's so many reasons
100%.
and crossovers. So it's like, there's, go with what excites you, and know that you just have to find that common point in all of it, and that's your selling point, right? So anyways, MGs, you will jump from thing to thing to thing, and there is nothing wrong with you, because so many MGs are like, I can't focus on one thing, I'm inconsistent, I'm flaky. And then beyond that, they also sometimes have the people pleasing of the generator side of them, and so then they're
Mhm.
trying to people please and make people happy by trying to be consistent and trying to stay in one thing or one niche, and you're just doing yourself and everyone a disservice. So the superpowers of this design of being an MG is you get to jump from thing to thing to thing. And then when you find something that truly excites you, you get to run with it and you get to really implement it. Like, you get to be the person who implements it too and who dives deep with it. Whereas manifestors just have to hand it off. But you get to,
Yes.
like, go find something totally new, something unique to you, whatever inspires you, and you get to dive into it and get excited about it and really go all in with it. And then when the excitement wears off, it's time to release that. So either then you hand it off to everyone else, or you wrap it up, or, like for entrepreneurs, I say that's when we turn whatever you're doing into self-paced program and you have it up for purchase for people who want it, but then you go off and do something else. Like, it's just one way
Right.
to approach this.
I
Or
love
if
it.
you're in a job or something and you're like, I don't want to work in this industry anymore, then it's time to start looking for another job, right? Like, that allows you to
It's
do
simple as
your
that.
skills and then something else.
Mhm.
And it's like, just, so of course always use your discretion, because I don't know what your situation is, but it's always looking at, how can I honor what lights me up? Because I know when I dive deep into what I'm truly excited about right now, it's going to help the other people around me. But
Mhm.
also, how can I give myself permission to, when I know that's done, I need to move on and trust that that's okay. And that's actually the best thing for me financially and the best thing for everyone involved. So that's
The
the key
day
with MG.
that we'll have our energy type and all the kind of like human design in our resumes,
I
that'll
feel
be
like it's
my dream
approaching.
come true.
I've heard of people who do, like, who work in HR companies who use human design when they're hiring and all this. And I'm like, that's so cool.
That's
Like, what a cool thing to
genius. I
build
think it will
teams
save it
and
so
to,
much. Yeah, it just makes so
yeah.
much more sense because they take all these like tests that are
Mhm.
not really giving you the accurate results, which are just like, here's what you're
Yeah.
hiring, right? Can be better. I love it.
And I always say, I'm like, I always take human design with a grain of salt, because while I love it and it's changed my life and it's changed so many of my clients' lives, it's also
Yes.
it's still just a spiritual modality, and it's not the answer. It's just a tool, right? And so it's like I'm all for people using it, but also you have to understand what it's really doing underneath the surface. Is it's not that it's some religion or some cult that
Yeah.
we're subscribing to and giving all our power away to. It's just a tool we're using to actually get deeper into trusting
It's
ourselves
the
and valuing
bridge. It's the
ourselves.
bridge to
It
get
is.
where you are. Yes.
It's
I
just a
love it.
system to feel, to really tap into your own sense of empowerment and self-trust, and really understand what your strengths and true gifts are. And that's, if human design does that for you, that's perfect. And if it doesn't, there's so many other modalities out there and self-reflection tools you can use to get there. But I think that's, like you said, it's whether it's human design or just a more general introspection of what are your strengths, what do you bring to the table. That's what we're not asking ourselves or other people enough when we're hiring people or when we're selling our products or when we're buying. It's like we're not asking
Yeah.
those questions enough. I think that's what needs to be asked. But going back to our energy types, yeah, I know we could just go on tangents
Oh
forever.
my God, Taylor.
I have so much I can always say,
I know.
but with projectors, so this is our next energy type. So I'm a projector. We're about 18% of the population, give or take. So not as common, but not as rare as manifestors or also reflectors, which we'll get to. But projectors are here to be guides. So we are meant to guide things. We are not meant to be busy working all day. We're very efficient. So when we do work, we can get done what takes most people 8 hours in like 2 to 4 hours. But that also means we need downtime. We need to rest. And
Mhm.
same goes to, for some degree, to manifestors and reflectors. But for projectors, this is really important because for an order, like we have so much wisdom to share. This is the thing. We're very wise. We have wisdom and we do well with guiding. It doesn't mean that you can't build something or create something, but it always kind of is with the intent to guide people or things or projects.
Mm,
Like you could
I
be someone
love
who's a
it.
really good CEO or a good manager. You could be someone who's a good project manager. You could be someone, you can also just, like, I'm a coach. You can be a writer to help give people tips or step-by-step actions. There's so many different things you can do with it. And the big key with projectors is to understand that because you have so much wisdom and you can see people so clearly. You see
Mhm.
people and you see their potential so much more clearly than they can see it. But you have to understand that that's a little off-putting for people if they're not ready for it. It's really, when you think about it, if someone looks at you and tells you your deepest blocks or your deepest fears, or and also the things that are so amazing about you that you don't even believe, it feels like a lot.
I
And
would
you're like,
love it, by
whoa.
the way. I don't
Yeah, well,
mind
just
it.
because you've done some self-reflection work, right? But it's like, but so it's just, you have to realize, and this is something I realized because I always knew what people need to do. And I was like, why can't you see it? Or why won't you do it when I tell you? And I realized it's
Yeah.
because I could see their potential so much more than they could see their potential. And so they thought I was just kind of hyping them up, or I didn't know what I was talking about because they weren't
Mm.
seeing in themselves what I was seeing in them. And so with a projector, your idea is you have to wait to share your wisdom with you. You have to be invited to share your wisdom. I want to clear this up because a lot of people think as projectors, you have to wait to be invited to move to this place or to go on this trip. And it's none of that. It's anytime you're sharing your wisdom with an individual, like you're seeing someone to their core and you're going to share what you see with them.
Yeah.
So giving them advice, giving someone, coaching, telling someone what you think they should do or your opinion, that stuff, you just have to wait for people to invite you to do it. You can initiate the invitation sometimes by being like, hey, do you want my opinion? And then if people say yes, then you can share it with them, right? But
And
as a projector, right. And then you share the things that are going to guide them to where they want to be, right? And
I
so it's
love
the
it.
same thing. It's the same thing with money, with business. And it's completely changed the way I sell because when I started doing business, I was taught by generators or MGs. And a
Mm.
lot of them do well when they're excited about doing cold outreach or cold calls or cold messaging. That works for them.
Yeah.
But for me, any sort of cold outreach, especially if it's something where I'm trying to coach people, like how intimate that is, and I see people so clearly,
Right.
that it's so jarring for people. And it never ever worked for me. And it made me doubt whether I could ever be successful in business. But then
Wow.
when I realized, I'm like, look, all I have to do is I just show up online and I share my value in general and give people tips that can guide them to where they want to be. And then say, hey, if you want to work with me, shoot me a message or sign up here. And people purchasing something from me, signing up for a call, getting on my news, that's all invitations to them for me to share my wisdom, right? Because they're
Beautiful.
asking, give me that wisdom. I see this wisdom, I'm acknowledging it, give me that, right? And so
Yes.
it's not just with sales, it's also you need to be as a projector in environments where you don't have to be working all day long with people. Like if you are in that environment, you have to find ways to rest and to recharge between the people intensive, times you're in.
Yes.
But if you can have a position where, because you can still work a 9 to 5, you can still work 8 hours a day, but some of that time needs to be more doing like admin tasks or doing more kind of mindless tasks or things that are, it's not, or studying, like learning. Projectors love to learn so that we have more wisdom to share and we feel validated in our wisdom. So it's so important for projectors to bring the intent to guide into whatever they're doing, but wait to be invited to guide people. And when you bring that
Absolutely.
into the way you sell or the way you operate in your day job with your coworkers or with your team or anything like that, that is the most just lucrative and effortless way for money to come to you,
I
is
love
when you're in
it.
that position of guiding where people are asking you to guide them. Right.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm. Yeah.
Beautiful. And
Yeah.
last but not least, we have
Reflectors. So our reflectors
reflectors.
are super rare. They are about 1% of the population. One to two, all these numbers are approximates, but
Exactly.
um,
One-ish.
yeah, one-ish. But reflectors are really, they're, when you look at the human design chart, you see all these geometric shapes on it. It doesn't make any sense if you don't know what you're looking at. It's completely unintuitive. But the geometric shapes are called our energy centers. And you'll, if you're any of the first four energy types we talked about, you'll have at least two of these energy centers defined, if not more.
Hmm.
Meaning defined, they're colored in. It means they're active.
Right.
You have this kind of consistent energy in your chart. Reflectors don't have any of the energy centers colored in. And what this means is they have our open centers, and our undefined centers are where we take in energy from the world around us and we amplify it and put it back out. So most people, unless there are some people who are rare who have all of their nine energy centers defined, but most people don't. Most have just a few, handful or half their chart. Reflectors have none. And so
Wow.
this means with reflectors, they are so susceptible to their environments. And so reflectors have this, everyone has kind of a double-edged sword, right? You either use parts of your design to help you or hinder you. But with reflectors, it's either that if you're in an environment where you don't feel inspired, comfortable, empowered, wealthy, especially if we're talking about money, if you don't feel rich, abundant in the environment you're in, then you will take in that energy and you're going to amplify it and create more of you, because your
Mm.
whole role as a reflector is to be a mirror for everyone around you to show you what's going right and what could be improved on, right?
Love
And
it.
so they're just reflecting their environment back to everyone else. And so for reflectors, you have to curate your environment. This means the spaces you're in, the people you're around, the people you're working with, the kind of work you're doing, like basically everything you're immersed in. And you need to make sure those spaces feel good to you. When it comes to money, they have to feel abundant in some way to you. They have to feel abundant. They can't feel like, really, like if you're someone who aesthetics are a big thing for you, if a place looks just terrible and just aesthetically doesn't feel good to you, and it feels aesthetically like poor or aesthetically broken or aesthetically lacking, then you're
Right.
going to amplify that in everything you do and in every area, because you're showing people, hey, this needs to be improved. This needs to be improved. And I'm reflecting that
Yes.
back to you. And so reflectors, when you curate environments or when you put yourself in environments to places, whether it's online or physical, and in doing working with people that make you feel so abundant and so inspired and so wealthy, it's like that's when the money's going to flow. And you're just, reflectors are so adaptable because they can shift so much that they have this power to amplify wealth like no one else. Like when
It's
you have a
amazing.
reflector, especially on your team or in your business or in your company, it's like if you can put them in an environment where they feel successful or wealthy or anything, like they're going to amplify that, and everything around them is going to, it's like the Midas touch, like they touch it and turns to
Wow.
gold, and it's so much power, but it's also just so precise. And also reflectors, because they don't have any defined energy stars, are very connected to the moon. The rest of us are all connected more to the sun.
Ah,
So
interesting.
every day the moon is moving more quickly through its lunar cycle and affecting their energy and shifting what feels good to them each day. So it's kind of a lot more, I don't want to say a lot more work, but it's a lot more attention to detail in yourself of introspection as a reflector to see, what am I
Hmm.
feeling today? How do I feel? What kind of reminders feel good today? So it's always going to kind of shift a little bit, and you'll kind of go through a pattern each month with it as the moon cycles through its cycle every month. But when you
Yeah.
understand that and you pay attention to it and you honor that and you honor those environments that feel good to you, you can do anything, you can be anything, you can have any career, and you can be incredibly successful at it, as long as you're making sure the people and things around you make you feel the way that you want to feel, right?
I don't know
So
about you guys. I feel like I can take a little bit of any of those advices from
mm-hmm,
all the different energy types.
mm-hmm,
And I think that's the beauty of human design, that, as you said, it's not, obviously it's not religion. It's not hardcore facts. And it's really actually to ask yourself what I feel resonate with, what feels in tune with me, and go with that and give yourself the permission to follow that. And that's a beautiful thing. And I think
yeah,
this is
yeah,
that's why, this is why your work is so needed.
yeah.
And I mean, we can go for hours
Oh
to
yeah.
be truthful with you. But I'm sure people want to follow you and learn more about your programs, your courses, everything that you offer. So where can they find you?
So you can find me on Instagram at Taylor Eaton Coaching. You can find me where I'm starting to really spend more of my time and do more and more around money and human design, but also on their own and do money and stuff on its own. That's all on YouTube now. So
I
I'm just starting
love
to
it,
really,
by the way. I'm
oh, that's what I love
subscribed
it.
to the core.
So that's
It's
where
so
I'm
good, guys.
really,
It's
thank you.
really,
That's
really
where,
high quality content, guys. It's not just like, it's really good meditations for every energy type. Like, she goes in depth. So you have to go and subscribe. I'm gonna put it in the show notes so you
yeah,
guys can just
yeah.
go check it out because it's that good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's my handle there is at Taylor-Eaton. You can find me on my website if you want to check out I have a bunch of freebies around human design, some around money, some around business, some around human design being a reader. If you want to become a reader, I have tons of stuff on that. So TaylorEatonCoaching.com. So those are the main places to find me and to check stuff out. If you're interested in human design and money, the best place to start on my website, if you go to TaylorEatonCoaching.com and then go to the freebies section, there's a program called Unfuck Your Finances. It's a free module program, and just so it's so fun. And I've been told I need to charge for it, but I love it, and it's just helped so many people. I'm like, I can't make this pay. I have paid human design and money programs that go much deeper, but this is in and of
It's so
itself just such
good.
a powerful program. So if it's something you're curious about, you don't need to know anything about human design. I walk you all through it. So highly
Amazing.
recommend that. So yeah.
Guys, go check her out now. I have no, like, I can't recommend her enough. There's a reason why I was like, she has to be in my podcast. I'm so happy you agreed to be here because I feel more people need to learn about this. And there's so much like human design now, but I feel like you're truly the OG and
Well,
the
thank
real,
you.
like the true voice that anything needs to be heard more. So
Mhm.
thank you, love, so much for everything you
Thank
do
you.
and
Yeah.
for spending this time with us and sharing your beautiful wisdom and being you, you know?
Well, thank you. It was so fun. Thanks for having me. Thanks for issuing me the invitation to come on the podcast.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.